Planetship Alpha has collapsed, and it's a race to see who can recover the most valuable survivors in 2491 Planetship.
Hello and welcome to Tantrum House Studio Awesome. I'm Katie.
And I'm Ryan, and today we'd like to share with you 2491 Planetship from Mebo Games.
In 2491 Planetship, 2 to 5 players take on the roles of commanders of huge planet-sized spacecraft called planetships, where all the citizens of the galaxy now dwell. One of the other planet ships has recently been destroyed, and it is up to you to recover the survivors and their valuable DNA to help your planet ship prosper.
The component areas of the planet ship are represented by 10 zone tiles that are randomly laid out in a grid configuration dependent on the number of players. Some will be face up and some will be face down in a reserve, and every round 1 or 2 will cycle to replace some of the face-up zones.
Each zone is comprised of one place where a reward card will be placed, and then other spaces where players will then place their characters to fight for control of that zone.
Players each start with the same 6 character cards, and as they win zones, they will add the reward cards from those zones to their hand. But at the end of each round, they will have to choose only 6 cards from their current characters and rewards to be the 6 characters they have in hand for the next round, and they'll discard the rest.
On a player's turn, they play one of their characters and a spaceship into one of the zone's open spaces, provided it has a space dock or is adjacent to where they already have a character. If the space has a face down icon, they will play that character face down, and if it has a probe icon, they can place a probe token in any space that is in that zone or in an adjacent zone to get a peek at any of the cards that are played there.
The twist of the game is that each zone has unique rules for characters placed there, and most characters have special abilities that influence the battle for the zones. At the end of a round, the zones and the spaces within them get resolved in order, so one character's abilities might eliminate another character or prevent their ability from activating.
After 4 rounds, the game ends and players score 1 point for every discarded card, plus points from each card in their hand, as well as any missions that they fulfill with their cards in hand.
We really enjoyed this game. I liked that it was a very simple overall game mechanic. I mean, it's just your card strength versus other people's card strength. But then it got really complicated once you started thinking about how abilities interacted and the rules of different zones.
Or the order in which the zones will resolve. So characters in Zone 0, which comes before 1, I was surprised to find out. It makes sense. Whatever they do, those characters get to go first. So whatever they do is going to affect every other one after that. And it's really important to get the right workers in the right zones.
And have them be in the earlier spaces so that they can do things to affect the later spaces. Because you have 6 basic abilities. There's hackers that eliminate other characters on their space. Shields, which can shield that character or other characters nearby. Scanners, which lets you draw an additional reward card and possibly switch out the reward card that's there. Team radio, where you get +1 to your strength for anybody that's on your space, any of your additional characters on that space or adjacent spaces. Tractor beams, where you can pull someone into an unoccupied space on your zone, or teleports, where you can teleport off of your zone into an adjacent zone. And with the different ways that they resolve, I mean, the different order that they resolve, some of those can get really effective because maybe you'll have a teleport character in an early zone and realize, oh, I'm going to lose this one, or I have so much power here, I don't even need this character here to win it. And you can teleport that one somewhere else so that you can win somewhere else.
Yeah.
But
that's really nice.
you might see, like, oh, if I don't do something here, like the tractor beam needs an unoccupied space in order to pull someone in there, and you're going to realize, oh, he's going to tractor beam me over. Maybe I'll teleport this character there because I want that character to stay over here. So it gets really thinking about, like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do if I respond to that? And that sort of thing. We had one situation where someone was going to play a character that had 2 hacker abilities. So he was going to go onto this zone and hack the other 2 characters there and eliminate them. So there was no way you could have more strength enough to defeat that hacker because he was just going to remove you. But you could fight that with shields. So I played a shield character on an adjacent zone that shielded over, and then they decided to play a teleporting character to teleport that shield guy further away, but I played a hacker to counter that in a different space, and it was a little bit of cat and mouse, like, you do this, well, I'm going to do that. And you're also trying to pay attention to what everybody else is doing. It can get really intricate when you're playing with multiple players with multiple characters out there, and you're just trying to keep track of everything. And then half of the cards that are played are all face down, so you don't even know, like, what if this is a teleport? What if this is a hacker?
Well, that's why those probes are so important. They allow you to take a peek at a face down card. That could be the reward card if the reward card gets played down in that zone, or it could be one of your enemies that you're trying to figure out, like, I'm laying this guy down, he's kind of weak, but he might win. Let me peek at this guy. Oh yeah, he's definitely gonna win, so I need to put some more people out. That kind of thing. So those probes are really important. They do, of course, work great for you. They work great against you as well. You may think you've got the upper hand with a surprise, and then, your husband throws out a probe and sees your plan coming from a mile away because he gets to look at your face down card. So that happens a lot. But yeah, the element of surprise in this game, if you can keep it, is wonderful.
And then the different rules for each zone are also something you have to keep in mind, because in one of the zones, the Senate, all characters are shielded, so you can't hack them or teleport them. And then in other zones, all of your characters are always shown. None of them are face up, or they might all be face down, and you can't probe in that location. So you have to kind of think, like, is it worth putting someone here with everybody knowing what it is? There's the radioactive area, where whoever wins it, they lose that character. It's not just discarded, it's put back in the box. You get no points for it. And then there's the prison, where the lowest strength wins. It just puts things on its head, because you want to have a powerful character there who's going to be able to stay there, but also have lower strength than everybody else. And
there's some characters in the game like that. There is a huge variety in what the characters can do, their strength, their abilities, and then what their points are worth. So with that huge variety in there, you do get characters who have great abilities but no strength. So.
Yeah. The one zone that kept tripping me up was the command center, because it has this ability that affects things that are there in that zone and then in adjacent zones. So anybody who has a team radio ability, they get +1 to their strength. And it's easy to overlook because it's not even in the zone that you're looking at. It's possibly an adjacent zone. So keep your eye out for that if you ever end up playing. One of the things I thought was interesting is you don't actually start with any humans in your starting hand. They're all aliens, and the aliens the different races factor into possibly the special mission objectives that you're doing at the end. So there'll be 4 reward cards that you're trying to have the most either race symbols or ability symbols to get 6 to 8 extra points at the end.
Yeah.
It can be pretty gritty because you're like, this guy doesn't help me at all with my strategy, but he goes towards the end points.
Yeah.
So
as I say, it's an interesting balance because you can find early in the game these characters that have great in-game points, but they have no abilities and they have no strength. I think there's a human princess who's has no strength and no abilities, but she's worth like 6 or 8 points on her own. But if you get her in the first round, you have to keep her, and she's helps you do nothing. And so you have to really think about what characters you need to get in the first round. You probably need to focus on getting characters who have either good strength or good abilities, and then go for those high points towards the ends of the game, because otherwise you could be like me and get stuck with some really nice high in-game points, but I'm floundering in the last few rounds just because I can't do anything with those because they've got no abilities to do anything.
Yeah, that's definitely the strategy I was trying to follow as well. Get strong abilities, the ability to gain cards in the early rounds, and then focus all on the point cards in the later rounds. But there's no guarantee that those point cards are going to show up in the later rounds because it's all random. And I don't believe you even go through all of the cards that are available.
Yeah.
So you definitely got to think, is this worth what I'm doing?
Now, there is one type of ability that lets you look at an extra card when you're choosing the reward. And that's a really nice ability. I don't know if you mentioned that.
The scanner ability.
Yeah, the scanner abilities. That's actually really nice. So you get a choice of 2 rewards. And so sometimes you can really go after something nobody else is interested in, but you have a scanner, you have an ability to look at an extra option. You might get something much better that people would have fought over, but because it wasn't out on the board initially, nobody even put anything there to fight over it. So.
Yeah. I felt like this game at first was just really overwhelming with all the symbols and trying to keep straight what was going on. It just seemed really complicated. But then as we started getting going, I was like, oh, this is actually really straightforward.
Yeah, that first round, you're like, what is going on? And then about halfway through, you're like, oh yeah, this is actually really straightforward.
And then you're like, oh, so the gameplay is actually very simple once you know what all the symbols mean. And then I realized, actually, this game isn't simple at all. It's really complicated because I got to try to figure out what are they doing with their characters.
What am I doing with my characters?
If I go here, am I going to be able to win that one later? Do I double up on this zone and get fewer characters, but are they better quality? Yeah. What characters should I be going to?
Yeah.
So there's definitely an element of strategy here that I haven't quite cracked, but I've had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, the board keeps moving and shifting with the tiles. So you're never, each round is a little bit different than the last. So you don't ever get quite comfortable enough with how the board is laid out to really say, aha, I've got it. So that's an interesting thing. It's got some neat components. I like the little boards here that you can stick the tiles in. I like that they stand up. They all face you, and it feels like they're fairly secretive. Nobody else is getting a look at your stuff. I did really enjoy that. There are some fiddly rules, I think. Not too many fiddly rules, but something that can trip you up if you're not watching is the placement of the tiles, having to start at one of the airlocks or next to one of your other somebody that's already down from your team. That can really mess you up if you're not paying attention. It's very easy to cheat with that. So you have to be paying attention. Pay attention to your opponent as well to make sure they're getting that. And so there's also the probes, remembering that the probes can't go all the way across the board. That's another kind of fiddly rule that is really easy to overlook. But besides those two things, I think the rest of the rules seem very as you would expect.
Yeah, I had one design complaint. The races for the bonus points, they use this symbol on the card. So, for example, this human has a little star on them, and I mean, that's great, but all humans are going to be red. None of the other aliens have this red background. I would have really liked if the mission rewards for bonus points at the end also had a red background, because that is easier to just glance and see than looking for the small symbol. So it's a little nitpicky thing, but once you get the hang of like, oh yeah, stars and red background, then you don't think about it again. But the first time I was playing, it threw me a little bit. Like
they used the color on the character tiles, but not in the scoring tiles.
Yeah, I would have liked to see it on the scoring tile.
It would have made sense.
Yeah, but overall, we really enjoyed 2491 Planetship, and we think that you might enjoy it too. If you think it's interesting, definitely check it out from Mebo Games, and be sure to stay tuned to our channel for more board game content like this. Like this one. I almost said video game.